Poland. Let's check if everybody can hear me. Please say hello in the chat box. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see so many people. We've got some people here in a Click Meeting chat, Click Meeting webinar room, and I'm sure there will be plenty of people on our Facebook page as well. Here I'm not at my home. It's a courtesy of my family that I speak to you. A couple of minutes just for you. So great to hear people are from Ukraine, from Poland, from Mexico. That's absolutely wonderful. Okay. Fantastic. So I think we could start. I'm wondering if Lucyna Wilinkiewicz-Górniak would like to say a few things. This is thanks to Lucyna's idea that we meet at least once a month with IATEFL Poland. This is the Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language in Poland. Lucyna, if you would like to say a few things, here you are.
Okay. To tell you the truth, I was convinced that Marcin, such a well-known person in terms of webinars, would introduce himself, and so I haven't prepared any special profile. But Marcin is such an active person that it will be my pleasure to introduce him just without any notes, just stressing his wonderful personality as a person and his exceeding involvement in all kinds of voluntary activities. I would like to say that it is thanks to Marcin that we are having these webinars on Click platform, because he is the only, absolutely the only person in IATEFL Poland who can manage and control these technical things related to operation of platform. So we are all really grateful to him. I take care of communication, as I normally in my everyday activity deal with communication in professional context. So I deal with communication with speakers. And Marcin takes care of all technology so that we can see the webinar the way it is. I would also like to say that Marcin is not only a teacher and a very active IATEFL Poland member, dealing with communication issues, dealing with technology, but also dealing with the so-called global issues that every single teacher has to be involved with if we want to be successful teachers and teach the skills and the knowledge that every citizen of the 21st century should possess. So this is a very important aspect of our teaching, and I'm sure that Marcin in future will be kind enough to present to us some of those global issues as well, apart from the topic that he is going to present to us today. As far as today's AHA, I would like to say one more thing, that apart, I don't know, Marcin, how you find time for it, because Marcin is a family man, yes? He has a wonderful family, taking proper care of it, but also participating in all kinds of activities. For a young person like you, I don't know how long your day is, but you are managing very well. Marcin also participates in all kinds of international conferences that IATEFL members and other Polish teachers take part in, and represents IATEFL Poland at these conferences. He has a very, very interesting profile on Facebook, and he has created a special profile for IATEFL Poland. So if you are interested, please have a look at it and join it. As far as today's webinar is concerned, Marcin not only will be talking about mixed ability classes and the way they are, but he will extrapolate this idea into teaching overall. And this is what I really appreciate in your webinar, Marcin. So over to you.
Thanks, Lucyna. I was hoping
Leave
that
us alone, because without you, webinars wouldn't take place.
Thanks a lot, Lucyna. I was hoping that you would say something more about the next webinars that we're waiting for. If you could just say a few things about what we are planning for the rest of the year, let's say, right?
Okay, so as far as the very next webinar is concerned, this will be Jeff talking about humor in language teaching, and this webinar is scheduled for 20 something of March, and you will receive information about it. Then after Jeff, there will be some more webinars. There is Willow Barnowski. There is the representative of American Embassy, Kevin. I don't remember Kevin's name. I'm in the process of communication with him. Also a very interesting person. Then there will be Ula Bukowska-Ulatowska presenting the topic of teaching and learning at school. At all levels, and then at the end there will be once again, and I would like to draw your attention to this fact, once again Willow Barnowski, this time talking about writing. Okay, so these are webinars planned till the end of this school year. If there are some more speakers willing to have webinars during summer, then we will let you know about it. Thank you very much, Marcin. Thanks for reminding me.
Thanks, Lucyna. Thank you very much, everybody, that you're here. I will also draw attention that Stowarzyszenie Nauczycieli Języka Angielskiego w Polsce, or in English, International Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language in Poland, is a bunch of friends who are simply like to share things with other teachers. And having said this, I want to wholeheartedly encourage you to take part in our webinars, not only as listeners, not only as participants, but also as speakers. And I would like to also encourage you to visit the webpage of IATEFL Poland, as you'll find some nice opportunities there to take part in the life of association. We are providing the members of our association with grants, the funding through which you can take part at some conferences. You can take part in some continuous professional development with not money at all, or with just few zlotys or few euros. And I would love you to check the section at our webpage which says grants or international exchange, because this is something that we do for you, right? Every IATEFL member has the right to take part in a life of our association and benefit from the grants that we are offering. Another thing that I would like to remind you is that all the previous webinars could be watched at our channel, IATEFL Poland channel on YouTube. And if you see at the end of our meeting, there will be a web page displayed asking you to subscribe to our channel. This way you will watch all the previous webinars, and you could also see what else we've got for you. At the end of the webinar, I will remind you some things, and also after the webinar, a certificate will be mailed to you at the address that you have given while registering for this webinar. If you are watching this through our Facebook Facebook page, please leave your email in a private message to the association, and I will mail you the certificate. Another thing that I want to draw attention to before we start is the beginning of the call for papers period for the 29th IATEFL Poland conference, which this year will take place in Łódź between 18th and 20th September. We wholeheartedly encourage you to join us. This edition will be devoted to high tech, and we will debate whether it's a teacher's promised land or this is something that we simply deal with, but it's not really giving us any future or any serious benefits. So this will be the main topic of our conference, but you are from the 10th of February or 15th of February, you are welcome to submit your paper, submit your presentation, talk, workshop, presentation, and come to Łódź simply to share what you've got. This is what we do, teachers for teachers. Let me then start with the topic of today's webinar, which is a mixed ability classes. And usually such a workshop that I run starts with a question, what is a mixed ability group? But you know what? I'm not going to ask you this question this time, because I would like to prove that actually I don't know what mixed ability class is. I would like to start with some priorities when it comes to teaching. And I believe there are some basic basic priorities when it comes to teaching anything. We need to provide some input, we need to show something, present or organize so students get accustomed with some material, some topic. We should provide some opportunity to practice, to give some students the task. Then I believe that we should make students evaluate and think about what they have experienced. At the end, I believe we should give students a chance to feel they have succeeded. Please say yes in the chat if you agree to those 4 priorities, and if you want to add something more, feel free. Thank you very much. Why I have decided to start with that is very often any expert or methodology guy comes into the classroom. They say, we need to give students the chance to feel that they have achieved something, that they have completed something, that they have learned something. But the question is how to do it when everybody is so different. How on earth every student is to reach the goal that we have in our minds, since they are so different. The most common difficulties with delivering a lesson, I believe, are that some students, on one hand, do some tasks very slowly, and some others are fast finishers. At the same time, some people get bored easily. Some people get bored if they are not provided with some challenge, and they want more and more. And some other people get bored easily because they simply don't understand a thing, and what we teach them is simply too difficult. Some, they say, just can't get what we tell to them. And the bottom line is what to do about it. Should we even out abilities and performances? Or we rather should stretch, expand the potential of all students? And if so, how to do it? So we will deal with such questions today. And thinking about mixed ability group makes me also think about such a Polish saying: wherever you have two poles, you have at least three opinions. Or I've got another saying: two heads are better than one. And I believe that those two sayings, proverbs, tell a lot about the society and about the group and about the class. Basically, there's no such a thing as a mixed ability group. I believe this is simply a false assumption. We were somehow made this way that we respond to the question of mixed ability groups sometimes with terror. Sometimes we are horrified because somehow, I don't know why, we started believing that there are some heterogeneous groups and homogeneous groups. I, frankly speaking, don't believe that we've got anything like that, which is called homogeneous group. As we said, students differ and they learn in a different way. They are all different. Unfortunately, this fact that they are different leads to a bit of frustration on a teacher's side. And if we stick to this, if we simply adopt this feeling of frustration, we will lose our ability to address the needs of the students, which is at the very bottom line of the problem. These are, the reason why we frustrate is that students have different needs. And later on, we get frustrated because we fail to comprehend it. I would like to address the issue of a group as a kind of sociological or anthropological concept. Are you familiar with these numbers? Maybe you could comment on what you think these numbers reflect. Can you guess what I will be talking about? Oh, thanks, Ron. My junior high school. Yeah, it's not that. Any ideas? What might it be? Okay. Will it help if I tell you the name of Dunbar? Okay, so let me explain you. These are so-called Dunbar numbers. Dunbar is a scientist, neuroscientist, and anthropologist, and he has got this theory, which is quite well cited. It's Dunbar theory, Dunbar numbers, that people from Paleolithic age lived in some groups of people. 5, 15, 15, and 150. He claims that the maximum number of the group in which people, our ancestors, forms that were before our civilization was 150. And within this group of 150, we were absolutely able to organize our work, our learning, our expansion, territorial expansion, our finances, our trades. Now, the number 150 is believed that this is the number of people with whom we could have some interaction. Some other numbers like 5 or 15 or 50 also means something. 5 is the number of our closest family usually that we meet on a regular basis every day. 15 is a more extended family that we probably have access within next scope, some close period of time. And 50 is the number of people who we contact like within the last month. A Polish neuroscientist, Marek Kaczmarzyk, very often talked about this phenomenon that we address students at school as if they were individual beings. So we claim that they should know everything what we teach to them. Whereas if I now asked you about a very important date from history, or maybe if you could tell me something about biology, like could you please tell me about the DNA or RNA or meiosis, would you be able to tell me this from your memory? Probably you have learned it at school because it's in the core curriculum of most of educational systems. I mean, would you be able to tell me what meiosis is and explain the meaning of that in replication, in reproduction? That was the example that Dr. Kaczmarzyk, yeah, it's a kind of a cell division, but if you remember, there are certain phases of this, stages of that. Would you be able to tell about that? No way. That's what you, Kasia, said, and we have all learned that. And Dr. Kaczmarzyk says that if we were to combine our friends of 150, probably we would be able to build up such a group that after some time would be able to tell this meiosis, or would be able to solve any other problem that one individual has. By this, I want to say that sometimes we require some certain knowledge only. Oh, wonderful, Ron! Fantastic. That's what I wanted. But sorry, Ron, you are in minority. Okay, let's say 80–90% of people being asked this question will not be able to tell. And this is generally about education. We learn something, but only in a group we are able to make use of this knowledge. Only within a group we are able to connect the dots. And that's why I claim that, first of all, there's no such a thing as homogeneous group, but also if it's a mixed ability group, this is precisely the way it is, and it should be. Every group, every class, every society differs. Could you please now think of the ways that your students are different from each other? If you quickly could suggest some ways in which students are different from each other, your students. Obviously, the interests, the sex. Of course, age, nationality. This is more and more true about Poland. We used to have more homogeneous classes. Now we've got more and more students from all over the world. Absolutely. Attitude, experiences, different tempo, family backgrounds. Yes, that's true. Knowledge, also intellectual capacity. And we could go on and on. There are plenty of such things. And all these things somehow influence our teaching. Yes, different stage of education, previous learning experiences, all possible ways. That's that. Thanks, Hubert, for that. I have listed only some of them, but you, in just like 2 minutes, have given almost 50 more different ways that people or students, in our case, differ. And all these things make our work more demanding. Probably it's quite difficult to take everything into consideration. So even if all things are quite important, we tend to focus on which 3 things? At least when we think about public education, we tend to focus on these things: learning abilities, language abilities in case of English language teaching, and special needs. And these are the 3 things which we definitely have to take into consideration while teaching, and not only teaching some kind of mysterious mixed ability group. No, every single group is mixed, so every single group should be differentiated in a teaching wise, right? So we've got these expressions which we are bombarded by the education boards, by curatorium, by our headmasters. These are individualization of the learning process, or differentiation, or personalization, right? And these things probably deal mainly with those things: learning abilities, language abilities, and special needs. And these things we focus the most, even if we take into consideration some other things. I would like to show you moment what is happening if we don't teach according to these principles. If we don't teach, taking into consideration those three basic differences: learning abilities, language abilities, and special needs. I will try to show you this video. Let me take a look at it. Okay. Just a moment. Just a second. I need to find some video. Okay, I got it. So now I hope that you will be able to watch it. Okay, so if we don't take into consideration those things, it's like that. Please watch it.
Have one of those days where it seems your brain just isn't working?
Yes, Monday through Friday. Well, this morning there's a video going viral showing a passenger on a plane really having a really hard time shoving his luggage into the overhead compartment. Take a look. Watch as the man tries to squeeze his suitcase the wrong way into the overhead compartment without success. He really can't figure it out. A flight attendant eventually shows up and suggests turning the suitcase the other way.
And at some point, I guess it works.
Okay, so maybe I will simply, if there's some trouble with this, I will put it into the chat box, and please take a minute to watch it. Okay. You can just simply copy the video link from the chat and watch it. It's very short. It's a very short one. Okay, please type yes if you're done. Yeah, thank you very much. So basically, that's the thing. If we fail to address these basic differences, this is as if we were trying to put the luggage into a overhead locker in overhead storage. Yeah, square pegged around. That's that. So basically, this is what we're doing if we don't take into consideration these things. Now, some principles for teaching any group, not a mixed ability group, any group. Know your students, give choice, provide a variety, and be ready to give extra tasks so students are motivated and have got something to do which is of interest to them. And these are delivered through those three things that I have told you: differentiating, individualization, personalization. And this is especially true for students with special needs. And at this point, we've got to say that if you teach a student that has got specific learning disorders, learning issues, learning problems, this is actually required by law, that you need to individualize approach. And probably in Polish schools, you would be, in Polish public schools, you would be obliged to teach according to this special document, individual learning path of a student, where we've got all the important things mentioned. Like, for example, for a dyslexic student, we need to remember not to do certain tasks. For example, odd one out may probably not be well comprehended by a student, or probably if we've got the wrong size of a font, if it's too small, or if we've got a serif font, this is probably also quite a good idea. Or maybe if you've got the text or a test, even better, in 2 columns, they may have the trouble to comprehend this kind of layout. And if you would like to know more about how to differentiate for dyslexic students, we probably could organize such a separate webinar, because it's a long story. You could also take a look at Facebook pages and find some workshops on dyslexia, and that's a good idea. Probably you would find some specific differentiation methods for this. I, from my point of view, the biggest authority as for dyslexia methods, dyslexia teaching, is Karina Freilich, and I truly recommend her fabulous work, where she shows so many various approaches how to cater for special needs of dyslexic students. If you think about students with ADHD, diagnosed students. Oh yeah, I will. Karina Freilich. Absolutely, I'm amazed at the methods that she's got. But also, if you think about some other special needs like ADHD, probably the individualization will be such that you have to put this student maybe closer to you, that you control him easier. Maybe if you've got students with Asperger syndrome, you need to take care more about the learning environment in which they are. So think about the temperature. If it's not too hot, think about the space. If they don't feel threatened. If you've got some students who are from the spectrum of autism, maybe you need to deliver some specific tutoring face-to-face if they allow it. So all those special needs require some special individualization when it comes to special needs. Of course, you say it's easier said than done, and even if it's not for special needs students, we still have to cater for their needs. And basically, what we do teaching so-called mixed ability classes, we're simply teaching for autonomy. We are teaching such way to make students responsible for their learning, to make them choose some activities that they feel best at. And while teaching for autonomy, we basically have to provide three things: autonomy, choice, and variety. When it comes to autonomy, self-evaluation is one of the important aspects. Very often, the easiest way that we can individualize or personalize our approach to students is through the feedback. Because nothing is so, or nothing must be so individual as feedback. Whatever students do, even if students do the same, all do the same this activity, even if they've got the same task, even if they've got the same instructions, later on, what you can do is simply to tell them individually what they are good at, what they should improve, what are their chances, what are their threats. So as you hear that, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, this is what I said just before. This is basically the SWOT analysis of a student or a student's performance at a given time. So this is one of the methods which is easily done. Even if you don't teach in an individual way, you simply can individualize the feedback, right? Another thing, sorry guys, another thing, what we have to do, what we can individualize is scaffolding, okay? So we can help students in different ways. For example, students have to do, well, just one of the activities, one of the exercises in the workbook, and some students are allowed to work with the dictionary, some students are allowed to work with the book, some students allowed to work in pairs, some students allowed to ask questions to the teacher. So these levels of scaffolding, these tiers of help, of support that we can give, this is also something that we can easily individualize. And it's not only in homework. This could be also in assessment, in teaching, basically. Another thing that we may make our students respond to our teaching better is, for example, through giving them the choice. Let them choose homework or testing format. With some students, I organized quizzes tests, which they do on their mobile phones, but some students prefer to write it down. Some students do the tasks on Quizlet, and some students simply want me to print them out, the tests from Quizlet. So this is also the way to individualize. Another thing about the individualization is also strategies. Like, for example, with simple reading comprehension activity. I usually tell my students, well, first read the task and the test items, and only later read the text. But I also ask students, and what do you prefer? What do you think is better for you? And some students say, no, I would love to, I work best when I first read the whole text and only later try to fit in try to fill in gaps or simply look for some keywords. So individualization is also teaching for strategies, so they can do things on their own, more autonomous. Another thing is strategy which is outside school. I believe that we not only should teach students, but also educate them in like a broader context. That's why we should have simply casual chats about, okay, so, and how do you learn? How have you learned this? What were you doing? What you're good at? This is this basic concept. One of the first principles we talked about: know your students, right? Simply have a chat about that. Also suggest some strategies. Maybe somebody's using the post-it notes. Somebody uses the Quizlet. Somebody uses the platforms that publishers offer the students. Okay, that's probably the connection thing. If there are some issues, maybe watching it later on YouTube will help. Let's move on. Another strategy is the thing that we don't probably pay enough attention to notes. I believe that this is something which is truly individual. Every student takes notes in a different way. That's why, from time to time, why don't we simply ask students to swap the notebooks? Simply, let's make our students compare in what way they take notes. Or I do from time to time, simply take photo of those work of those notebooks and simply display it. Look, here we've got such case study of note-taking. Maybe you could think of taking note in some other way. Maybe that would help you learn better. Okay, so this is yet another idea how we can individualize teaching by asking students if they can effectively take notes. The better they take notes, the better they remember, the better they structure their knowledge. And plus, at the same time, they're doing something on their own. But sometimes they need a hint, they need a push in the right direction. When it comes to some questioning techniques, there are plenty of questioning techniques that boost cooperation between students. When students work together, this feeling of I can't do something or I'm weak is lessened because they can learn from other people, like we could do in a famous think, pair, share activity. So first we ask a question, students think on their own, individually. Later on, we've got to think, pair, share, pair. So we put them in pairs. We try to come up at one answer, comparing what they've got in their heads. And only later they share with others. Probably you could use this technique with any other activity, not only responding to questions, listening comprehension or reading comprehension. First, let students do things on their own. Later on, put them in pairs so they can learn from each other. Remember, where one teaches, two learn. Okay? So teachers, we teachers are so smart because we simply teach others. Why shouldn't our students be smart and smarter? Because they are teaching others. So that's the thing. Another activity that boosts autonomy, but also boosts thinking of individual needs is asking some check-up summary questions at the end of the lesson. 3 to 1. Give me 3 new words. Give me 2 most important things or interesting things that you have learned. You can ask me 1 question, okay? And this is either a technique at the end of a lesson, or it could be also a task for fast finishes. If they have finished earlier, we can come over to them and make them answer such simple tasks. Another great tool for individualization is the phone. Basically, students will have a go. Yeah, of course. I mean, Janna, you are right. That's always happening. True, and that's always the issue with some students. You know what? Different folks for different strokes for different folks, right? We can't do much about every student. Next thing that we can offer our students apart from autonomy this is the choice. So basically, we can organize our lessons in such a way they are open-ended. Okay. Basically, project-based teaching is very much open-ended. I would like to tell you very quickly about my idea of a project-based teaching, which I did with my students on podcasts. And we did this with the Spreaker application, which is on the phones and which is also on Windows. With podcasts, this is quite easy thing to record it if you have just your phone, but also since we adopt a project-based learning, students have a chance to adjust the tempo, choose the vocabulary that they want, maybe also choose the topic, the format, and the more choices they have, the more responsible they feel for what they're learning. Okay, let me just very quickly tell you about the project that I recently with my students. We had this one of the readings in which there was something about extreme sports, and there was also something about judo or karate or some other martial arts. And I then learned that one of my students is absolutely brilliant judo athlete, judo sportsman, and I didn't know much about that before. And I simply wanted to know something more. So I asked him to record a podcast, simply a short audio program in which he would simply tell about what he does, how successful he is, and so on and so on. We did this in a specific procedure. Let me share it with you. The first thing, I provided them with some requirements. And at first, I told them that, okay, we are doing the podcast. So you will need to record some short audio. And this audio program could be in 3 possible formats. Either it could be a news report, or maybe a review, or maybe an interview. And later on, I gave them the deadline. At first, I gave them 1 month. That was too long. And since it was too long, some students really kind of extended it into infinity. It's better to give them like 1 week or 2 weeks, then they're more focused on the task. Later on, I told them that podcast should be 5 minutes long if it's done by 2 people, or 7 minutes long if it's done by 3 people. And of course, at this time, they said that they don't know much about the podcast. So I simply told them that, well, you could listen to podcasts on Spotify or on YouTube or on some other podcast apps. And then they realized that the podcast is not only speaking, but they're also music elements, special effects, jingles, and so on and so on. And also discovered that some of famous people also record podcasts. I told them later on that they it's a good idea to use the Spreaker application, but if they want, they can use simply any other recording tool. Later on, I put them in groups. In some classes, I let them choose the groups. In some classes, I put them in certain groups according to the level. I didn't want everybody good to be in one group and others in a weaker groups. And this is yet another way to individualize and cater for stability classes. Later on, they had some time on brainstorming the topics and formats, so what they choose within the groups. And of course, later on, they already at the lesson started writing the scripts. And then after a few weeks, they have delivered the presentation. So they kind of sent me some files. Let me check if I can could give you some ability to listen, some opportunity to listen to that. I will again give you some moments to listen to one of my students did. I'm sure you could listen to that. Okay. So in the chat box, you've got the link. This is the link that I received from students, and this is the link that my students said that I could share with teachers, showing them what they can what my students can do. So this is a short fragment of the podcast. Just take 1 minute or 2 minutes to listen to Hubert's podcast. And if you're ready, please type in yes if you've done it. Okay, now I can see that I have typed. I gave you the wrong thing. Let me show you one more thing. Okay, because this is not what I want to give you. This is what you see in the screens. This is that should be this. I uploaded you the text, the script that students sent me while preparing for their podcast project. Okay, so that's not the listening task they received. This is just a script that students sent me. Now I will send you the link. This time, this is the link to my students speaking. Okay, I can see. You know what? There may be a problem with this link. I will, along with the certificate, I will send you also the link to this file. Okay. Now it seems that I didn't give you the right to view this. Anyway, you must believe me. At this point, there was simply the podcast recorded by 3 friends, which was about the judo career of one of the students. His name is Hubert, and he was simply telling about his career in English pretty nice piece of podcast. Anyway, so I will remember to send it to you along with the certificate. Okay. Sorry about that. But anyway, so that was the procedure for this project-based teaching, and later on, I gave students the feedback on how they did and how they have accomplished the thing. Why? In what way it was a tool for mixed ability classes? Well, students had a choice to choose the level of vocabulary, choose the level of their input. They put as much as they could, provide at the time and effort they could give. The most important thing from that perspective was that some of them admitted that they have been rehearsing for 6-7 hours, which is a lot, and they were mastering it. They were correcting their scripts. They were recording it again and again, and in this way, this project-based teaching, and in this case, the podcast recording with your students, is a good way to individualize the product, also the content of the lesson, but also the environment of the class, right? If you would like to have something more about recording the podcast, there's a brilliant, absolutely brilliant activity and a brilliant video and article at the New York Times, and this time I will send you the link so you could read it later on in the chat box. Now we've got the link to New York Times learning lesson plan section, where you could learn more about teaching students how to produce their own podcasts. Okay, basically, let me move on as we are kind of run out of time. There are some other things that you could do about individualization or differentiating of learning tasks. Basically, this is, for example, a think, tack, toe activity. Imagine that at the end of the end of the chapter, at the end of the unit, students have to produce something, but they've got a choice. They don't only have to do activity in a workbook or simply a poster when it comes to the family tree, or they don't have to create a song or a crossword. They have a choice. And this kind of technique for differentiated instruction is called think-tac-toe. At the end of a unit, at the end of a chapter, you provide students with such a grid from which they choose one. They have to choose one activity that they will do in the way to prove that they have learned something from this in this unit, in this chapter. But if they choose the 3 out of 9, they could have the extra super fantastic grade. And of course, they could choose the 3 easy ones, or one easy one, or one easy task. But In this way, they also choose what they can do, right? As with everything, this is the matter of you knowing students, and if you can trust them to do such a thing. Probably, if you want to do such a grid, you simply create different tasks, but such tasks which simply please you, such tasks which simply, in a way, are the way to check what students have learned. And now we've got the family, but let's think of the topic of, for example, tourism. And could you please now in the chat box write down as many as possible ways to check if students have achieved some level of knowledge of vocabulary from the lexical area of tourism. Okay, so I will give you one example. It could be design a leaflet. Which will invite tourists to come to one certain place in Poland or somewhere in the world. So that would be one task. Now you need to think of 8 other tasks, different kind of tasks. It could be the exercise from the workbook. It could be the Quizlet task. It could be Kahoot. It could be making crossword. It's simply important to give students 9 choices. Yeah, that could be a vocabulary quiz. Thanks, John. Thanks a lot. It could be a quiz that students also will write for themselves, right? For other students. A video of their perfect, also with commentary, right? It could be an essay. It could be also a postcard, a letter, depending on the level. Thanks for all the conversation with the. Yeah, it could be also the dialogue from the tourist agency, right? And this is my kind of goal. I would love to create such think-tac-toe charts for every single lexical area. Yeah, an interview, the students would report the findings about the. Yes, that's absolutely up. You're very creative. I love that, absolutely. And your students would also love to have this these different possibilities, different opportunities. That's so many. Please don't be mad at me if I kind of use your ideas in some videos. Thanks a lot. Okay, I have extended this thing way much too long. I simply want to suggest one last thing of a variation for individualized instruction, and this is the idea which I heard in one of the Penny Ear's workshop. I don't remember where it was. It was some time ago, and I'll just leave this with you as a food for thought. I'm not saying that I truly, absolutely support this idea, but I find it really creative and I find it really interesting, providing that you trust your students and your students trust you. And this is basically the idea for homework. So Penny Eyre says that the most common approach for giving the homework is simply, okay, exercise 1, 2, 3 from page 54. She says, well, there's not much choice and there's not much individualization in this. But then she says that maybe there are some classes, maybe there are some students to whom you can say something like, okay, do as much as you can off page 54 in 20 minutes. And obviously, there will be some students who simply will be like that horse, right? You can lead the horse to water, but you will not make them drink, right? That may be the case. But maybe some students will appreciate this choice that they have given 20 minutes to their homework and they have done as much as they could from page 54, from the workbook. Okay. So I'm not saying this is kind of a must-use thing, but I've got 2 or 3 students in every class for whom that would work. Okay. So this is something I'd like to leave you with. I simply want to once again persuade you that there's no such thing as mixed ability class. All students are mixed ability, and we should teach every class with those mixed ability class tasks or priorities. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. On the behalf of IETF Poland, I would like to thank you for being with me. I would also would like to also thank you to all people who joined us at Facebook page at IETF Poland. When you will be getting out of the webinar room, please, there will be a web page displayed which will ask you to click on the YouTube channel. Please, this is the YouTube channel of IETF Poland. Go there, subscribe, choose to learn something more from the previous webinars, and I promise that today at night I will mail the presentation with some notes to your mailboxes. Thank you very much. It was absolutely great time spent with you. See you guys. I just want to remind you that next webinar will be with Jeff Tranta on 18th of March. Then it will be about using humor to develop creative use of language. Then we'll have Kevin McCarthy at 6th of April 2020, and it will be about what happens to listening practice, tips for increasing listening time. Then on the 27th of May, we'll have Małgorzata Bukowska-Olotowska talking about, well, we don't know yet, but it would be absolutely worth watching. And then on the 10th of June, again, Willow Barnowski will talk about writing, how to boost our students' writing. Willow Barnowski before was talking about fake news and how to, when it's going to be on YouTube. That's a good question. I will try to do it today at night. I will post it on YouTube today at night. If you are on IATEFL Poland Facebook page, you will see the recording there instantaneously just now when we finish. Thank you very much. See you guys.